The live adaptation of the popular video game The Last of Us has yet to hit our screens, but already fans are working on one of the show's lead actors for recast. For today's episode, we'll be talking about how The Last of Us fans want to recast Ellie for Season 2. Plus, here's everything you need to know about The Last of Us Season 2, so keep watching today's video for more. Let's talk about The Last of Us fans today as they cast the perfect Ellie ahead of the show's Season 2 premiere. Although HBO's The Last of Us has not yet made its debut on streaming services, fans are already anticipating the second season, which will feature an Ellie who is perfect for the events of Part 2. Castings by fans can be contentious. For The Last of Us fans, they had hoped Nikolai Coster-Waldau would play Joel, but now that Pedro Pascal plays the grumpy survivor, we have no idea why they would have chosen anyone else. Apart from Pedro Pascal's Joel, Anna Torv plays Tess in the series, along with Gabrielle Luna as Tommy, Nick Offerman as Bill, Lamar Johnson as Henry, Kevion Woodard as Sam, and Bella Ramsey as Ellie. Merle Dandridge returns as Marlene. There will be new characters created for the television version of The Last of Us, and the events of the first game will be shown, plus or minus a few things. A second season may be in the cards if the reviews are positive enough, and fans have moved quickly to cast an older Ellie in Part 2. And do you know who's the fan pick? Alba Baptista, a Brazilian-Portuguese actress, is the one and only one. She played Ava Silva in the supernatural action show Warrior Nun, which Netflix canceled earlier this year, so if that name sounds familiar. If a second season is confirmed, Baptista's schedule could theoretically be adjusted to accommodate Ellie. You must admit that they present a convincing argument. We would like to make the point that Bella Ramsey is 19 years old, which is the same age as the character in Part 2. As a result, there is no reason why Ramsey cannot reprise her role with a slightly different outfit and makeup to make her appear older. On January 15, The Last of Us will be available on streaming services. And for those of you who haven't caught up with the latest, here's everything you need to know about HBO's The Last of Us. The television series Last of Us is about to begin. The epic feature-length first episode of the HBO and Sky Atlantic drama will premiere on Sunday, January 15, and introduce the live-action versions of Joel and Ellie. We also know a lot about what to expect now that the show is almost over, from the adaptation's alterations to the creator's multi-season strategy. Check out the guide that follows if you want to learn everything that has been revealed about the series. We have discussed who will play who, the show's main plot, and most importantly, when and where you can watch The Last of Us on TV. For starters, let's talk about the show's premiere and where you can watch it. The Last of Us will be available on HBO and HBO Max on January 15. On January 16, it will be available on Sky Atlantic and Now TV in the UK. The first season will consist of 9 episodes and will air weekly on Sundays and Mondays in the US and the UK, respectively. If you haven't checked it out yet, the show also has a few trailers you can watch to prep you for premiere day. Many of the game's best moments are mirrored in the trailer for The Last of Us, which shows Joel and Ellie's journey through post-apocalyptic America. Among them are glimpses of the game's prologue and the pair's winter trek through Colorado's snow-covered landscape. So will the show mirror the whole video game, or will there be creative differences in the series? The creators have made it clear that the game's story will be told in the show. Mazin told BBC News that he is doing it with Neil Druckmann in this case, so the changes they are making are meant to make things bigger and better, not to undo what has already been done. He also talked about how the TV show will have a moment that doesn't happen in the games and will make your next gameplay better. Mazin also told the Radio Times that this will result in some changes to the games. He stated that in the end, adaptation is all about choices, and they can go on and on about how they make those choices and how there's a lot of math involved, but it always came back to what do I love and what as a fan would I be hurt if I didn't see it in the show. The creators have expressed their desire to extend the show beyond one season. Druckmann and Mazin hinted to The Hollywood Reporter that the first season will cover the entirety of Part 1. They also hinted that a second season would focus on Naughty Dog's Part 2 sequel. The Last of Us creative director Druckmann, on the other hand, told The Hollywood Reporter that they have no plans to tell any stories other than adapting the games, and that they won't run into the same problem as Game of Thrones because Part 2 doesn't end on a cliffhanger. However, he did not say if it will continue beyond Part 2. Now let's talk about one of the fans' lingering questions about the cast of The Last of Us, Pedro Pascal's casting. Despite the fact that The Last of Us has a lot of visual similarities to the video game that it is based on, this should not be taken as a criticism of the film. The look of the weathered apocalypse in the HBO series often comes straight from a video game that, even when it's at its most brutal and cruel, looks cinematic and full. Everything, including Joel, now played by Pedro Pascal, is captured in exquisite detail. However, Joel isn't quite the man he was in The Last of Us, and that's intentional. Some of that just makes sense. Joel's interactions with his surroundings had to be updated by co-creators Craig Mazin and Neil Druckmann as part of the game's TV adaptation. Mazin jokingly stated that there are aspects of their medium that they embrace that is distinct from the game medium. In the game, you need a healing system. You have to heal after being shot a lot, but in reality, you only get shot once. To disprove that, we must demonstrate all of Joel's physical and emotional damage. Following Sarah's death, his body appears to be hurting and his knuckles remain bloody. Joel in Pascal's version is not as sneaky as Joel, Joel in the game. Joel walks in such a crouch that he would have massive quads, right? Mason claims that Joel's quads would be massive in the game because he was constantly crouching, but 55-year-olds can only crouch for 3 minutes at most before their back gives out. So embracing frailty, I think, helps pull people into this kind of immersion, which is different than the video game immersion, Mason said. Joel's character will also need to be slightly altered as a result of this. The Joel on television has a different path to take than his character, and he has a long and difficult road ahead of him. Additionally, viewers who have played the game may notice important distinctions between him and his TV counterpart. He isn't selling weapons like in the game. Instead, he's trying to find a car battery so he can go find Tommy. In the game, due to gameplay, Joel has to be extremely capable to justify all the actions you're doing, and there are certain things we're doing in the game to get you to connect to him by being him, Naughty Boy co-creator Druckmann tells Polygon in an interview, and that was part of the casting of Pedro Pascal as Joel. We were less looking for someone who could play a tough guy, because in some ways that's the easier part, and more someone that could show there's a tortured soul inside of it. That conflict between Joel's lighter sides and the immense grief, pain, and violence that now define his life is set up in the first episode of The Last of Us. He is soft in some ways, and this choice will undoubtedly influence the outcome of the first game, which has earned a reputation for being quite contentious. When a co-worker is too overwhelmed to move a child's body to the pyre this early in the story, it's hard to imagine Joel, who is often characterized by his brutal, thawing apathy. In HBO's The Last of Us, Pascal played a crucial role in Mason and Druckmann's conception of Joel as a tough but slightly more human character than his game counterpart. Druckmann continues to heap praise on the show's lead actor, describing Pedro Pascal as someone who is so charismatic that when you watch him on screen, you feel like something is missing from him, and you want it to come out. He also says that Pedro is funny, and genuinely funny. It becomes really fascinating to follow this really damaged guy because they clearly see a lot of it in the beginning, including his interaction with Sarah. When all of that goes away, you start to see hints of it coming back out over time. As for the actor, there's one thing he always keeps in mind as he plays the role of Joel. Pascal recalls that the one note he would receive was to try to get to it as much as possible. According to the actor, the only way he could truly comprehend Joel was through his own heart. He also stated that Joel was a very hardened individual who did not reflect on his own feelings even before losing his daughter or seeing the world end, and that loss has a kind of calcifying effect on him and shapes who he is and how he survives in the future. And with that, we're wrapping up today's video about what we know of HBO's The Last of Us. Are you a big fan of the video game? Are you excited to see what HBO did in the live action? Let us know in the comments section below. Thanks for watching today's video, and before you go, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to our channel with the notification bell for more videos like these. See you next time.